All right, so quickie video here on today's procurement. I've been looking at this fan for a while on Marketplace. Had a few messages with the guy. It was kind of hard initially to get in touch with him, but we finally did, and snowstorm and all that. And anyway, ended up getting it today. I am 99.9% sure this is original Emerson paint on this fan. It's not listed in their 37 catalog as one of the there's no section for custom colors in the 37 catalog that I've seen, like there is in the 1930. But yeah, there's zero evidence that this was masked off. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding if I decide to remove this tag. But you know, generally you can tell when someone has used masking tape or if they've cut along here with a brush. Zero evidence of that at all. I mean, there's no paint on the little edge of the badge. So, you know, just that's a big plus in favor of original paint. Plus, collector buddy has told me that he's seen one of these in this color. So, in fact, I think he said somebody repainted it because they thought it was a repaint. But also, you would have Japan under this if this was a repaint. So if this fan was Japanned and somebody decided to paint it green, well, there'd be Japan under here. And this is raw metal. And this is exactly how Emerson did their custom colors. They basically painted these pretty much fully assembled. So when you pull this piece off, you get raw metal. That's how my Palmer House fan from 1930 was. So missing the, head wire's gone. I got good readings though, so that's great. Really nice, strong readings. The blades, the paint on the blades is in pretty immaculate condition. So that initially I was a little concerned about that because, how could the blades be in such nice condition, I mean, they got a few nicks on them here and there, but wow. Steel, I'm sure. I haven't even tested to see if they're brass. I can guarantee you they're steel. I'm using these crocodile wipes. I don't know, man. They sometimes feel like they don't work as good as others, but they are actually working pretty good on this. Just got some grease and a little bit of grimy stains on it. Nothing too terrible. But wow, I mean, the blades are really, really, really looking nice. So I'd love to be able to get all these rust spots nice raw metal, and I might be able to do that just by polishing the paint, but I'm gonna have to be real easy on the paint. So I thought about taking some of these Weber wipes that I sometimes use, putting those in getting some evapor rust on there and kind of sitting it like that and just letting it dwell. That's one way of doing it, but I'm just not sure what the evapor rust does to paint. I'm sure it won't hurt it if it's just in there for a little bit, but I don't know. But yeah, the cage on this is in a lot nicer condition. Now I do see black under the green on the cage and the struts, but that could just be a matter of they grabbed some Japanned, or I think the cages and struts were Japanned, yeah. They just grabbed some off the line that were already done and painted over them. So that's, because I do think they did that on occasion, so that's not too concerning. The cage badge, usually when they did custom colors, they did a French gray. Now that could have been earlier, like, the nicotine fan, the one that we've determined is old ivory and not nicotine. That one has a French gray badge. I think that's why, the guy I got it from, a collector friend, thought it was a French gray fan with nicotine stain, because it does look like heavy nicotine, but upon further inspection, it's just too doggone perfectly even to be nicotine. And I looked at it under a microscope and all that, so pretty much determined that one is in fact, paint. And that color, Old Ivory, is, you know, if you look up historic colors, if you Google Old Ivory, you come up with some results that look like that. I mean, obviously, Old Ivory refers to ivory, you know, antique pieces of ivory that get this old yellowed look to them. Yellow, brownish yellow is how it's described. So, and that fan is definitely what I would say is brownish yellow. So yeah, this is coming up, cleaning up pretty doggone good with not too much effort here. I'm surprised. But yeah, this ugly zinc and black badge is just, that's kind of a buzzkill. That really sucks. I wish that was a French gray. Oh, I think I see Japan under the base too. So that's interesting. Green on the lever, on the switch lever, which is normal. They painted their switch levers on custom color fans. Again, not too concerned about the Japan under there because it was not too uncommon for them to just grab something off a fan that was already done or already Japanned or apart and just paint over it. Because, you know, the Japan functioned as a great filler. Not as big of an issue on the cage, but certainly on the cast iron base, you know, they wouldn't have had to spend extra time, you know, filling or, you know, grinding or whatever, cleaning up the casting flaws and pits and all that. So yeah, these old nickel or zinc badges are just god awful, man. I mean, just gray, and they can polish up a little bit, but I don't have a lot of luck getting those to look real nice once they're that dulled out. Yeah, wow, this green is intense, man. So what's funny is I bet, I can almost guarantee you this came out of like a government, like a city or state municipality building, because I encounter this color a lot in my historic paint work in, you know, in old courthouses and municipal buildings and state capitals and all that. We see this color green a lot. And the theory amongst us workers is always that, well, they must have had a lot of green pigment left over from World War II or World War I. This is 37, so, you know, just military surplus type paint that they would just, you know, that maybe these government institutions or entities or whatever would get, you know, state or local government would get it from the, you know, the next branch above them, you know, if they had a local military base or whatever. But, you know, they would basically just dish out green pigment, and then they'd mix some white with it, maybe some yellow ochre, whatever, just to, you know, just to get something out of it. And so we see this color a lot in the paint stratigraphy. The doors I painted, so in Wyoming we restored these Mosler walk-in vaults, okay, like safe doors from 1889, and you know, I worked with a conservator on that, and just uncovered these beautiful pastoral mural scenes and pinstriping and lettering, and just incredible. You can Google that, and I think you'll get an article that comes up on them. It's pretty cool. But yeah, under like 4 or 5 layers of paint, we found these beautiful original Mosler vault paintings, and but 1 or 2 of the layers was a green kind of like this. You know, it's like, when in history was this a beautiful color? You know, enough to paint over these gorgeous scenes. So anyway. You know, that's, and then, you know, we see it on walls and all over the place. So that's kind of the theory, is that it was just kind of a government cheap way of getting paint, you know. maybe they did just have tint, but they gave paint, like, hey, here's some green paint, add some white to it and some whatever and make it a little bit spruced up. Okay, that looks pretty doggone good. Boy, I wish I could fire this puppy up. I might grab a capacitor and I don't know if I got a 77 switch. I mean, it's got a switch in it, but just instead of dropping the switch, which wouldn't be too difficult to do, maybe I'll do that. But see if I can get the hub clean a little bit. Yeah, this blade came out great. So yeah, I'm guessing that some, local courthouse or whatever, city hall, county courthouse, whatever, probably, had just, was getting a remodel done in this color with their government paint, and so they ordered fans that would complement that paint. Possibly this was wall mounted at some point. I don't know. No way of telling that just by looking at the things. Yeah, I want to fire this puppy up, man. I'm gonna see if I can. I have to dig up the wiring diagram for a 7.3 and see what we can do. I bet she'll fire right up. Yeah, the missing paint up here by the handle is a real bummer. Kind of rusty. Oh man, I mean, that looks fantastic. I mean, as fantastic as this color green can look. A little bit of green on the top of the oil cap, which is par for the course. They painted the oil cap, they painted the tube and the cap when they did a custom color too. So just, there's just too many things that argue in favor of it being an Emerson paint job and not, just some Yahoo painting his fan green. So I'm going with absolutely 100% certain it is an Emerson paint job. Missing a screw, and one screw is a little loose. Okay, that didn't take much. Yeah, that's too bad. Somebody, I don't know, somebody probably was going to take the gearbox off so that they could access this better, and then realized, oh no, we can just take the plate off and who knows, So the seller, he basically cleans out old houses and stuff. So he didn't remember exactly where he got this or whatever, but some house in locally or whatever, not local to where he lives, but somewhere in the county. And I gave him my number. We're going to stay in touch, hopefully, because he's going to come across some stuff. He said he came across a 5-blade, and he swore it was an Emerson. I mean, he knew his stuff. I said, maybe it was a, whatever. And I said, maybe it was like I forget what brand. I shouted out an R&M or something. And he said, no, it's an Emerson. Dude's got a pretty decent eye for stuff. And he was going to just list it for sale. I don't know when this was, but he said his dad was like, nope, here, I'll give you $200 and you can have it when I die. Because I guess his dad knew what it was or what. But Now, if it's an Emerson 5-blade, it's either a Meston or a tripod or something. I'm not real familiar with all the early Emersons, you know. As much as I like Emersons, I don't really, they're just not on my radar yet because I don't own any, you know. My oldest one is a 1510, and that goes back to, I think, like 1909 or something maybe. But anyway, I asked him to, you know, see if you can get your old man to, you know, send me a picture, and, you know, I can at least inform you what you got, you know, what it's worth. I mean, good Lord, if it was a tripod, I mean, what are those, like, you know, in great condition, or even not in great condition, you know, 8-10 grand or something. I don't know. But he did say, I was describing a tripod base to him, and he said, oh no, it's got a base like this one. So I don't know, you know, if somebody had a 5-blade from who knows what and put it on an Emerson, but, you know, most other fans are going to have a set screw type fan blade mounting. So either it's an old Meston or tripod blade somehow, you know, and I don't even know if it would be the same size that would mount on the rotor of a, you know, a government model 1930s or 40s government model. I don't know. One of the few Emerson fans that takes a set screw, I guess, is my point. But anyway, so hopefully when he sends me pictures, we can, not that he's going to sell it or whatever. Like I said, the old man's got it, and, you know, they're sure they think they got and they might have a gold mine, you know. It could be something really super, super cool and rare. Oh yeah, and you could tell by the way this paint ends right here perfectly. In fact, I don't know how they did that, because I know on the fans that they machined, or that they Japanned, they machined a lot of stuff after the fact, like they did like hand planes, like, you know, woodworking hand planes. When those were Japanned, they just dipped the whole thing and then they machined them after the fact. So I think they did the same thing with these. You know, they dipped them and then they did all the machining, drilled the holes and, you know, whatnot. But so I don't know where I was going with that, but oh yeah, but these here I don't think would have been drilled or machined. But regardless, they do that before they painted. So I don't know, but I don't know what they did here. They plugged these holes with something and then painted, because it's just perfect. Just like on the old Ivory nicotine fan. I noticed that on it, how those holes are just perfect, you know. And if somebody did this themselves back in and you know, this is at the earliest, or at the latest, this is probably a paint job from the 60s, because this is definitely lead paint. I can just tell by looking at it, the way it's laid down. You know, somebody back then just painting their fan to have it green, they're not going to go through they're just not going to do that incredible of a job on it, you know. I really have a hard time believing, you know, even if it was some custodian in this government building I'm talking about, you know, hey, why don't you go ahead and paint that fan so it matches our walls there, Bob? You know, he's not gonna take the time, I doubt it, to do such an amazing paint job. These little sticks work great. Got them on Amazon. I forget what they're called, but boy, they're nice, real sharp. Ooh, and that reminds me, I got these from went and ate at a steak place yesterday. These were medium well. A little too flimsy to do anything with, but throw them in there. Yeah, boy, this color is really intense, where it's pretty clean and virgin. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I gotta, I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal to pull the switch out of here. Yeah, let's see. Let me pause this. All right, so got a little help from Zach the Fan Man. Told me how to rig this up without the switch in there. So got it. Had to cannibalize temporarily this black Japan 73648 with a capacitor. I guess it would be an AK2 because the K stands for capacitor. So I've got the 1.75 capacitor, which I was thinking this would be a 2.75 like the 16-inch 77s, but no, 1.75. So got it rigged up here. So step over here and turn the power on to the Variac at 110. Oh shit, don't oscillate, don't oscillate. Wow, I threw a little zoom spout in there and blades are nicely balanced. Can't ask for better than that. God, runs great. Fantastic. See what kind of spin down she does. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so had to reset here. Just doing some kind of going to town a little bit with some polish here. Got too many irons in the fire on this workbench. Just trying to get rid of all the rusty rust on the bare metal. So I'm just kind of going at it with some mothers. I don't want to use Blue Magic. But wow, man, where I polish that green is amazing. Get a new piece here. I love these rolls of microfiber that you get like at Home Depot. Love them. Just because they're, you know, I like the cheaper microfiber anyway for polishing. You know, the real thick stuff you get sometimes like in AutoZone or, you know, in the car aisle at another big box place, sometimes they're too thick and almost feel like they're impregnated with something that kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I don't mind the missing paint. I just don't like it looking like rust. So if I can get it sort of, you know, work some of that away with polish, you know, I don't mind it. I don't know. I mean, I might touch it up, but I doubt it. And I don't see any green coming off on this, so not really. A little bit right there. Yeah, a little bit. Let's take her easy. Beautiful. You know, I mean, to me, the missing paint tells a story, just like patina. You know, I hate it when guys, you know, repaint a fan just for, well, this is a little more severe. If this was just a black, normal, every run-of-the-day, run-of-the-mill black paint, black fan, then, you know, this could be a candidate for repaint. But, you know, a special color like this, to me, it's important that, you know, preserve this paint. You know, like when I did the Palmer House fan, I initially was trying to salvage the original paint because, you know, it was important for me to I wanted to preserve that paint that was in the same air that was breathed by all those patrons at the Palmer House in the 1930s and whatnot. But that did not work out. Wow, that color. I'm liking this color more and more, man, the more I see it clean. Yeah, thing runs great, man. As you can see in that little run through I did there. Good spin down time. I mean, wow. So I'm gonna have to pilfer well, use a new capacitor, I guess, but I'm gonna have to pilfer a pan from somewhere. Had a lady contact me about a 77 648 AS I listed for sale, and she said her kids knocked hers off the top of the refrigerator, exact same fan, and you know, wondering if I would if I had a cage or, you know, blade and all this, and you know, then we got to talking about maybe trading her, the one that fell, for the one I have for sale for, you know, a lesser amount and include that in the trade. And I don't know, I might, but could maybe use some parts off it. It's pretty beat up. It really is. So yeah, at the very least, I'm gonna have to mix up this color to paint a collar. Well, this collar or one of Jerry's, and then the wheel. Because, you know, I don't mind missing paint, but to have a part on there that's just not painted at all from another fan or whatever. This thing obviously was worked on at some point in time. So that's interesting. And there is Japan underneath the green on the base and on the cage and on the struts. But that is not uncommon. I think they grab stuff, you know, they just grab stuff off the line when they had a custom order come through, you know, rather than you know, just wait for a whole nother set of cages. You know, if they had an order for 30 fans, you know, they just grab what they had ready and paint it over the Japan, like I was talking about earlier. Wow, that is some intense green, man. That's awesome. So, yeah, I'm not going to do anything mechanical tonight. I just wanted to kind of get this to where I felt like it, you know, was a little more presentable, just so I could see what I got, how filthy it was or whatever. And you know what? Kind of crowded here. Let's do this. Let's move this light. Let's move the camera over. A little bit better angle there. Keep saying I'm going to spend the day, you know, cleaning the bench and cleaning the shop and all the stuff over in the back there where I got, you know, I just don't get around to it, man. Yeah, that green. I don't know. I don't want to go too crazy with the polish. I kind of like the subdued look of it, but at least this Mother's will kind of protect the metal from going crazy with the rust, you know, because it does leave down a protective kind of something, wax or silicone or something, I don't know. But yeah, that color is more intensely green once it's been polished. Really gorgeous. to start trying to think how I would match that color with my one shot. I don't know, man. It's going to be kind of tough. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go too hog wild here on the motor and the blades. Well, I might take the handle off and see if I can tamp down that rust that's on the right there. Like I said, I don't mind it looking like that, you know, raw metal that's got a little bit of a protection on it. But, you know, just a big old rust spot, that's kind of a buzzkill for sure. Gorgeous. I could almost, I could almost do the head wire without opening it up, but I don't think so. And you know, now I'm kind of gun shy on these old, well, not that this is that old of a fan, but after what happened with this 1510, where I cleaned out the rotor, the bearing, and now I got a bearing knock, because you know, all that old gunk is basically providing some degree of you know, cushion or whatever, you know, filling in the wear. And, you know, I talked to absolute genius, you know, when it comes to fans, and he said, yeah, it's not uncommon to clean them out, and then you get some noises and rattles and bearing noise. So I tried 30 weight oil, and well, I kind of took it apart pretty quick after that. I didn't really, you know, I started to, well, let me open it up and get all the 20 weight oil out of it, or most of it, and ended up just saying, you know what, I'm just gonna take the stator out and put a head wire on it because it needed it, and there we are with it sitting on the I'm trying to decide if I want to try to so I was told, I talked to another, you know, fan veteran, and because I remember him having a way to get out of your way here. Just keep moving around here. Let's see what this looks like. Well, low power, so we're going to have to quit that in a minute. I remember at his house when I was working up in Michigan, visiting him, and I remember him having one of his couple of ultrasonic cleaners was filled with mineral spirits. And so, you know, I asked him earlier today, if he's ever, you know, put a stator in an ultrasonic cleaner, because this thing is pretty gunky, and I hosed it down with Electroclean, and it is not seeming like it's really doing nothing. And I don't know. So I thought, boy, if you could put this thing in an ultrasonic cleaner, man, that would just really, you know, if it doesn't destroy it. Yeah, I might just have to remake a badge for this one like I did for the chrome one. And he said, yeah. So I don't know, man, that's pretty crazy. He said you could use detergent, any of the big box detergents, or mineral spirits. Now, I did point out that what I'm using is the Zep, and it's got lye in it. And because I was thinking that wouldn't be good. And he said, no, yeah, I would not use the lye cleaner. So yeah, that's very interesting. That would be awesome. And it wouldn't take, I mean, you'd have to let it dry a long time, a couple days, you know, for sure. But, oh man, I really want to get this rust gone. I wonder if I could use just a little bit of Blue Magic on the rust. Just because it's a little bit more aggressive. Man, that is not, well, it looks better having a little bit of a polish to it than just dull, rusty, you know? Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's bring it over here and plug you in because you're about to lose power. Camera viewers, let's plug you in. You can tell I am not a professional YouTuber. Keep working. This is fun. Kind of nice to just not be, you know, just be doing some cleaning. Yeah, man, I would love to get a head wire on this thing sooner than later. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Hate to open it up though. I always hate opening up painted fans, because especially light colored ones, because you know the paint just wants to pop off, you know, where pieces meet and screws, and but you know, this has got enough stuff missing that it wouldn't be the end of the world if we had a couple other missing little tidbits of paint. Man, that green is like an emerald. Maybe I'll try to edit this in the editor and, you know, do the fast forward thing. I don't really know how to do that too well. I usually use iMovie, which is not great. And I sometimes use U-Cut, which my son uses for his rail fanning thing. I mean, heck, you know, I could probably give it to him and say, hey, do this and do that. And he'd, you know, do it right away and figure out, you know, quite the little editor. And so yeah, this would be great side by side with the old ivory, the nicotine fan, the old ivory fan 7.3. Also yeah, also twisted struts, but not a capacitor model. And it is actually from 1932. So this one, what did we say this was? 37. So you know, and I get a color mixed up good. I might do a little bit of selective touch up here and there, but but not crazy, you know. Like, I think to get down here and touch up around the base would be kind of hokey. I've done that with black fans and it looks okay, but I think you'd notice it more on this bright green. Here. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about that brown under there. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do much more to the blades because they came out pretty clean with the crocodile wipes, and I'm okay with them the way they look. I hit some of this stuff on the cage where the paint's actually really nice. Boy, it's unbelievable how the front of the cage is in great condition, and then back here it's all chewed up, you know? Like, that happen? Usually you'd think it'd be the other. Well, who knows? All right, let's put the handle. Interesting. No green under the handle. Black, so that's an argument for it being painted. Well, let's see if the screws got green on them. That one doesn't. Where'd the other one go? That one does. So yeah, the screws probably had paint on them originally and just, you know, chipped off. But that almost, can't tell if that is brush painted. And you know, this could have been painted by a brush. I did see some evidence inside the switch opening, looking from underneath when I was taking the switch out, see what looks like a little bit of a flick of a hair. So, you know, that the old lead paint, you could paint it with a brush and it would lay down smooth like glass. So, you know, part of me thinks this was, you know, spray painted. Like the blades look like they were painted with a spray because I see a tiny bit of orange peel, you know, like factory orange peel. You have orange peel on factory paint jobs, you know. Even automobiles, you know, modern new automobiles are not like wet sanded and buffed. I mean, they've got orange peels. So, but here, really don't see that. You know, I'm trying to look and see, do I perceive a little bit of brush strokiness? But no, I mean, you rarely see brush strokes in old lead gloss paint. I mean, because it just did such a good job of laying down. All right, so yeah, I wish I could get that spot to look better. Oh, found it right away. That don't happen too often. Not that it matters here, but turn this thing around and see if I can do any better. I'm gonna pause this because this is giving me a fit. All right, so there it is, just cleaned up. You know, not going crazy and doing the head wire yet or nothing, but yeah, man. Let me know if you have any insight into this emerald green Emerson, which I am 99% convinced is factory paint.